If you are taking too many supplements and you're already healthy, you are reducing your lifespan.
How can we get more fibre?
Well, this is the irony of it. I do genuinely believe this is the worst it's ever been in terms of misinformation. Anyone can call themselves a nutritionist without qualifications. You know, you look everywhere, there's a hormone expert or a gut health expert.
They are not properly qualified. They haven't had the proper qualifications.
They're all claiming they can help, and naively, perhaps they genuinely believe they can.
What would they need to look for to make sure that they're going to someone reputable?
The oceans are declining in quality of produce. We are all consuming blindly what we eat. Do you really want to be consuming collagen powder? Do you really want to be consuming E-numbers?
You found like all of these products, which are names that we'd all know.
I know.
A horrendous quality.
Especially the pregnancy multis. That's what was shocking for me.
Welcome, my dear friend Rhiannon is joining us on the podcast this week. You are so many amazing things. You're a top nutritionist, you're a best-selling author of many books, and you've got a new book coming out very soon. You have your own top-rated Retri Clinic called Nutrition,
Yes.
and you used to be an opera singer, right?
I know, yeah, well, yeah, classical singer back in the day, so yeah, I'm starting that up this year actually again, which is quite nice. So.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you introduce yourself to everyone? And can you tell us how you went from being an opera singer into the world of nutrition?
Gosh, Hannah. Well, we're here. We made it here, which is just incredible. So thank you for having me. Yeah, absolutely. It was such an interesting time, and it actually makes me feel quite old now looking back, because I think, wow, over a decade ago, I was in a complete different space, or more than that now. So I had no interest at school in science. I was actually quite bad. Chemistry was not my thing. I didn't really enjoy numbers. I was quite good at biology, and I just thought, no, music's for me. I just want to sing. I want to be on stage. And I won a competition when I was 17 with Classic FM.
Oh, wow.
I just uploaded a very poorly sung version of the Laughing Song, which is music by Strauss, actually. So, yeah, I sung it in English. I hadn't had any formal lessons at that point, and just kind of made it up and went to see my local teacher, and we entered. I won, and got the opportunity to go to the Royal Academy of Music in London. But the only glitch to that was that I had to make my own money. My parents didn't have enough. I had nothing. The record label that I won with gave me 1 month rent. That was it.
Wow.
So I remember handing CVs out on Oxford Street to get a job, because I didn't know where else to go. I'd moved up to London. My parents just kind of plonked me in this flat in Camden, and I was living with these mature students at the time. So I was like 17, turning 18. They were already like 23, 24. They were musicians at the Royal Academy of Music.
Oh, wow.
They were all different nationalities. So I lived with a French girl called Anne-Laure, Taiwanese Anne Ting, and Alexandra, who was Swedish. And they taught me so much. And it was amazing living in that kind of zone. So I got my first 2 jobs at Karen Millen and Accessorize. I was offered. And then I kind of embarked upon this journey of
So you were working 2 jobs and then studying at the same time?
Yeah, privately studying at RAM. And I just found it at first it was fun. And then after a month or 2, I was in a very destructive relationship. I met someone that just was not, it was very toxic. It wasn't healthy. And I think I obviously clung on to a relationship because I was in a new place. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know what to do. And I got signed by labels, dropped by labels, signed by labels, dropped by labels. I was songwriting. I was trying to make it work, and nothing was going to plan. And it got to a point after 3 years of this, 3 years, I turned 21. I was like, I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
I had the most amazing opportunities, don't get me wrong. Singing was incredible. And to be in that situation with labels and working on music with the most amazing songwriters was insane. But I went to study nutrition because I thought, what do I like? What do I need to learn more about? What's wrong right now? My relationship with food, diet culture was vast back then.
Yeah.
It was the size 0 time.
Yeah.
So, and for me, they kept saying to me, but you need to look like Katherine Jenkins to be successful. You have to have this very commercial, and she's this beautiful, beautiful woman. I was just this pressure that was constantly on me as a young performer. So I enrolled at nutrition at uni, and the rest is kind of history. That's how my journey began. That's how I got into studying. And I was definitely an underdog because I was crying, thinking I couldn't make it through this course.
Oh, wow.
And by then I had 4 jobs to make uni work.
Oh my goodness.
So it was, I did night shifts at the library. I had the retail jobs at the weekend. I was still singing during the week, and I got a job in the cafe as well in Parsons Green because I was at Roehampton Uni. And I was at the Royal Albert Hall. I had 5, because I was doing stewarding. So it was a really intense time. And then I kind of took to it. And I loved it, and went on to got a first-class degree, went on to do masters, went on to become a master practitioner.
Because your masters was in obesity, am I right? Yeah.
Yeah. So at the time, it was when obesity was becoming a real concern, a public health concern. And we'd actually, when I was at university, vitamin D wasn't a government recommendation either. So this was just coming in. I remember we were talking about it at university. So I thought, well, sensible choice for a master's. What can I do to help? What will I get a job in the future? I will help people with their weight and that sort of thing. And then I realized obesity is far more complex than simply helping people with their weight.
Yeah.
Obviously, learned a hell of a lot on the master's degree. Got into practice very organically, meeting the right people, being the nutritionist at the cafe I worked at. And then I used to intern one day a week at the Food Doctor in Harley Street for free.
Right.
And then eventually I got £20 a day. I remember that. You look back, I got £20 a day to get in, sit on the reception desk for the whole day. And I used to see the clinicians going in and out of the private practice rooms. And the minute I got that, the degree and the master's degree, I remember saying to the boss, Michael, can I work for you? I love it here so much. Can I be one of the nutritionists? And he just said, yeah, of course. And that's kind of how it started, my practice.
God, goosebumps. Yeah. So you really had to work from it. You didn't get it handed to you on a plate.
No, it was pure graft, yeah.
And it's just that finding your passion and following it and really believing you can do it and not giving up.
Don't get me wrong, it was breadline days. It was, in fact, my first book, Renourish, one of the recipes, I did savoury porridges because what I used to eat, having no money, was porridge for dinner.
Oh, yeah.
So I used to try and make porridge creative.
Yeah.
And I have a recipe with the egg and the porridge and the savoury cheesy one because it was almost like bread. Yeah. And that's what I used to do. So it came in really handy. And I think living in that way, I was so lucky that I guess it did pay off. But yeah, you just have no choice. You go for it.
You just go for it.
Yeah.
I've got so many questions I want to ask you.
Sorry, that was such a waffle. It was. I don't know how to say it.
No, it was amazing. That was a really wonderful and inspiring story. Let's go back for a second to your masters in obesity.
Yeah.
Obviously, you said hugely vast, not like I can write a paper and fix it. And obviously, are there any kind of like 3 tips to help people that you could give?
Yeah, I mean, in the context of if you are currently struggling with your weight or if obesity runs in the family, there's a few things, I think, background knowledge they have to understand that it's not your fault as an individual. Because if you're overweight as a child, it's really difficult then to lose that weight into adulthood. You're more likely to be overweight for your entire life if you are overweight as a child.
Okay.
And now 1 in 4 are obese as a child now. So we're really looking at statistics changing. We're looking at psychology around food. Food is a coping strategy. We're also living in an environment with ultra-processed foods, which has come, actually, as we were discussing it on the master's course, but now because of Dr. Chris van Tulleken's book, it's become mainstream discussion, which is good.
Yeah.
So it's really out of so many people's control, lack of education around food. So I guess my top tips would be, number 1, understand or try and start to delve into your psychology and your relationship with food. Because the minute we start just talking to ourselves and that inner voice and just saying, I know right now that food is perhaps a problem for me. I'm not in a very healthy place with it. I'm going to start a journey to try and educate myself or try and surround yourself with positive people and positive resources. And if you can start to unpick those people that perhaps are not helping you on a journey you want to embark on or are derailing you, it's really hard. Try and find one person that could be like a confidant or somebody to support you. Obesity is social, psychological, environmental, biological. There's some genes that people have that predispose them to always wanting that extra slice of cake, whereas some people could only just have one. There's so much research emerging with gut bacteria, good and bad ratios. So plant-based diets, I think, can really help because fiber helps with fullness, and from a nutritional standpoint, we're not getting enough plants. So it's a very complex discussion.
We're not getting enough plants and we're not getting enough fiber, right?
No, I mean, fiber is the most common deficiency I'd say we have. Like most people are only getting half the 30-gram recommendation in the UK. And we know now that fiber is linked to our gut bugs. We know it's linked to mental health. We know that heavier stool weight, that is researched in other countries, so better bowel movements, better habitual things like that, are linked to reduced risks of certain chronic diseases, blood sugar balance. Fiber is a big topic.
And how can we get more fiber? Like, what are the easiest ways for people? And also, is there inexpensive ways? I mean, everyone's struggling right now, and food is expensive.
Well, this is the irony of it. Okay, so first of all, plant-based doesn't mean vegan, which is why I wrote the new book. Plant-based means reduce the animal produce. I have a page in the book on if you still eat meat, if you still eat fish, if you still eat eggs, because I want it to be accessible to everybody. And that's okay, but just reduce it for the planet and for your health, and increase everything else. So what's the cheapest thing to eat that's protein? Beans, pulses, lentils. They are not expensive items. You can get them in a can for what, 80p? And compared to a slab of meat, which now could be what, £6-7? And if you're looking at that per meal, it's a pretty obvious cost effective choice.
And being in a can is okay, as opposed to making them yourself, because then they're pre-prepared.
Absolutely, it's totally fine. And if you want to save money even further, you can buy huge bags in bulk of pulses and legumes and lentils and things, and then cook them yourself at home and batch cook them. But to get iron out of things like lentils, because iron is something people often question on a plant-based diet. If I stop eating red meat, or I don't get enough. You will still get iron if you consume vitamin C alongside those pulses to aid the absorption. But some people will always be anemic and will need to go and see a GP and make sure they're getting iron supplements.
Okay. There's always buts, aren't there?
There's always a but. We're unique, right? There's no one size fits all.
I mean, otherwise someone would be very, very, very rich for creating something that works for every single person.
And my job would be so easy. Every question you're asking me now, I'm thinking there's so many caveats to this. There's so much nuance. There's such a big discussion to be had. But it's because I would hate for somebody to listen to what we're discussing and think, well, that doesn't apply to me, or I can't do that. Because everybody can, but it has to look different to them. For someone, it might be, I'm just going to have 2 meat-free meals a week and start there. For someone else, it might be, I'm going to do half beef mince if that's what they eat, and half lentils with it and beans. And start small and build it up gradually. But by making those shifts, you're helping your heart health, you're reducing your risk of bowel cancer, you're reducing your risk of diabetes. Plant-based diets are linked to so much more. And the misconception is it's carb heavy. It's not carbohydrate heavy. And in fact, our bodies are designed to have whole grains, pulses, and all of these sorts of things, because they're low in energy density, they're low in calories.
Okay. I just thought of a really good question. Social media. How do you feel about social media? And because what obviously hooks people in are those quick fixes. This is going to work for you. And it's painful to watch, right? For someone who has had all of this training and coming in, as you say, there's nuances and everyone's different.
Yeah. Social media has changed in the last year or two. And I don't know if it's because I've had kids and I stepped out, but I do genuinely believe this is the worst it's ever been in terms of misinformation, because suddenly social media has turned into this high-tech production of movie-like content. So it's...
And the hooks as well. Everyone's not watching it, so you need to hook them in. And by hooking them in, you're giving them something that you want and explaining it in a very minimalist way.
And often it's impossible. You get that headline. It's almost turned into a newspaper tabloid with snappy headlines everywhere without the context behind it. Because if people don't take the time to then go and listen to that podcast or listen to what this person's saying in their blog or read the caption, they're just going to take away that clickbait, heading. So it's changed because the misinformation, there's no regulation. That's what I want to campaign for. Anyone can call themselves a nutritionist without qualifications.
Oh my God, madness.
Everywhere. So, you look everywhere, there's a hormone expert or a gut health expert or a nutrition balancing person here, and they're all claiming they can help. And naively, perhaps they genuinely believe they can. The problem is they can't, because it would do more harm than good if they don't understand the biology of the human body and understand what they are doing and the long-term consequences of meddling with people's diets.
And so what you're saying, these people, and it's obviously not everyone, but they are not properly qualified. They haven't had the proper qualification. So what if someone was going to a nutritionist, what would they need to look for to make sure that they're going to someone reputable?
Registered. if someone's, I mean, what's scary is that some people deliberately now, they may have done a degree and they choose not to be registered because then they can earn more money online by advertising unethical things. So because I choose to be regulated, I pay every year to be regulated, to have people pull me up if I say something wrong and tell me I'm in trouble here and give me warnings here. Thankfully, I don't get that.
I was about to say, I
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, but you'd be surprised. There are trolls that will report you just for the fun of reporting you, and then you have to go through the paperwork of proving that you are. I've had that recently happen once.
Oh no!
It was a bit of a time bore, but it's fine. And I'd rather be regulated because the public need to trust. Just like a doctor, I know there's bad eggs in every profession, but you wouldn't dream of a doctor who can't be prescribing medicine to people. No. We eat food, so you don't want someone that doesn't understand the impact food has on your body to tell you what to eat or what powder to buy or potion and lotion. You know, it's insane. So look for registered nutritionists and then check they are, because a lot of people are now saying it and they're not. So you can check the registers. If you go to BANT, AFN or BDA, you can search those registers for health professionals. If you went to the Association for Nutrition, search Rhiannon Lambert, I will come up. You'll see, right, she's a public health registered nutritionist. She's been in the industry for 10 years, and you can see that this is the areas I should be working with. It's the same for the British Dietetic Association, although dietitians are protected. A nutritional therapist is blurry, because it can either be natural, like more holistic, which isn't as evidence-based, or there's some that have done degrees that have a more evidence-based approach to practice. So it's a bit more tricky to decipher that. But you do know with AFN and BDA, they are held really accountable.
Okay, that's really, really helpful for people.
Yeah.
Talking about evidence-based, what's the most recent piece of science come out that has excited you?
I love that. And I'm not actually going to say gut health because everyone's talking about it. And it's recent and it's emerging. But I would probably say I'm excited about omega-3 more now.
Okay.
As the next kind of talking point. And it's not that there's a particular paper or something that's come out, although this book here literally has studies up to 2024 because that's submitting the book earlier this year. So it is really recent in terms of collating research. But I would say we need to start thinking about our brains, the food we eat for our brains. The oceans are declining in quality of produce. It's really sad. It's not sustainable. No fish is sustainable, whether we think it is or isn't.
Okay.
I do enjoy eating salmon, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'll go out to a restaurant, but we are consuming in the UK the same fish like every day. Tuna, cod, haddock, salmon. Maybe some people have mackerel and sardines or prawn. Yeah, that's shellfish. There's not much variety. Yeah. How big is the ocean? Yeah. You know, over farming. And then the quality of omega-3 we get from those fish is declining because of the state of the oceans, because of plastic, because of global warming. And we're getting less good quality DHA, which is omega-3 we need from the ocean. So most people, and it's expensive. It's one of the supplements I wanted to make with Nutrition Plus, but I couldn't afford to do it because I couldn't do it to a standard I'd want to do it. Right. It would be with British algae, because I make our vitamin D sprays with British algae, so it's sustainable. Wow. But omega should come from the algae because the fish eat the algae in the sea, but it's bioavailable eating fish. It's harder eating plants for it to be absorbed as effectively. Yeah. But for any vegans or people that don't eat oily fish, you should be taking omega-3. But it's not available on the government, so people can't afford to. Yeah. It's just mad, isn't it? It is. And there's no guidance in the UK, specifically more than eat 1 or 2 portions a week. In other countries, which is the data I had to pull for the Science of Plant-Based Nutrition, Australia, they give actual amounts and quantities. Oh, we're behind.
We are behind.
We're behind. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Sorry, science overwhelmed, but I find it fascinating because omega-3 is linked to our brain. Like our fat, 60% of our brain is fat, 60%. So DHA is there, and we need to be nourishing that to reduce our risk of neurodegenerative diseases and all sorts of things. Heart disease is linked to omega-3.
Yeah. It links in with what Celeste and I are doing with our teacher training in the way that we are bringing in the brain, because actually people get so fixated on the body and forget about all the other systems. And
Have you spoken to Tara Swart?
No, I haven't.
If not, I will put you in touch. She's a neuroscientist and she talks about ancient rituals, and I think you girls would love it. And she says that we're meant to be connecting to these ancient rituals. I've had her on the pod and I can't remember exactly how she described it so eloquently, but she said if we keep learning a new skill or a new practice, it could be drawing a bit more anything that keeps our brain young, and it keeps the skill and the grey matter washing over and protecting it. So you should definitely,
because we tend to do the same thing over and over and over again. And I suppose the same goes with food, but our body loves,
it needs diversity.
It needs diversity. It needs challenge. So
I have got a stat to throw in on that.
Go on.
So there was a study that came out from King's College, and it said if we consume the same type of fibre, even if we're getting 20 grams, the target's 30, so 20 is not bad.
Okay.
Because we're eating the same amount every day, it decreases our gut microbiome diversity, even though we're eating good fibre.
So we need to be eating different things.
Strains. Yeah.
And I mean, I think I've heard the number, like make sure you get 30 different plants a week.
Yeah.
Would you suggest that, or would you say more? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a page on that in the book, and it sounds so overwhelming, but actually it is literally, could be a teaspoon of spice added to your stir fry counts as 1 point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, dark chocolate counts, I think, is like a quarter or a half point. Don't quote me on that, but it's definitely in the book, you know.
Sounds
so
great.
It is doable if you eat a very balanced diet and you don't just eat peas, sweet corn, tomato, carrots, potatoes every week. You try and mix it away from the staple English diet, and we can get a bit of diversity.
Okay, 2 points I've got on that. One, I haven't read this book yet, but I've read your other one, The Science of Nutrition.
Yes.
And I loved the way it was so accessible, because it is so confusing. We're bombarded with all this information. So I can't wait to read this one. My other thing is, one of my children is a very picky eater. And particularly with vegetables, there are certain ones that they will eat. And I'm sure I'm not alone in this. Can you help us as mums? And how do we do better? Because children will flock towards ultra processed food and processed food, right? How can we do better?
And what age now?
9.
Oh, okay. And was it always like this?
Up to the age of 1.5. He was very good, would eat anything, and then he just changed and he was very picky. And I at first panicked, but then actually it was even worse when I panicked. So I just tried to stay calm.
Yeah. And did you keep offering the same things he turned down?
Yeah, so keep offering.
So you've done everything you possibly can, and it's every child, just to put your mind assured, it's very rare, every child is a picky eater.
Okay.
Because they're asserting their individual preferences and control as a child. What's the one thing a child can control themselves?
Yeah,
what they choose to eat.
Yeah.
They can't control anything else at the age of 9, really.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised in different situations what they will and won't eat. You've got peer pressure, you've got the social situations at school, the home environment. They can assert their authority over their parents to a certain degree. It's hard, but I think the key is to not despair unless it is completely beige. If it is literally just beige, then I would have a look at make sure they're getting enough vitamins and minerals in the different types of beige they're eating, or try and mix up half rice with some quinoa thrown in, and just try and do some little swaps within the dishes that they definitely like. And then again, it's keep offering, even if it's not eaten on the plate.
I figure one day you'll surprise me.
Exactly. And you're just not alone. I don't want parents to feel like it's their fault, because it's not. It's normal. And what's worse, and this is the problem when we were talking about obesity before, but if you live in an environment that contains these highly palatable items that technically are not food, they are processed ingredients made to be palatable, to be consumed for energy and some nutrition. If we're surrounded by that, of course you're going to want to eat that. And I think the best thing for a healthy relationship with food is to allow an enjoyed item. Just allow it occasionally, make sure it doesn't become daily, but really actually enjoy it when they have it, so they know that that's okay. And then, but it's not an everyday thing.
Okay.
It's hard. It's not easy. I've got that all to come when he starts school. Zaki's 4 and he starts school in September. Yeah. And I know, because I'm quite fortunate. He is very good, Zaki, very good. Although his younger brother, who's just turned 2 today, actually, he turned 2 today, and he hasn't eaten broccoli for like 2 months. So, you know, you just don't know. And I'm still offering it on the plate 2 months later, and then I just finish it in the meal in the evening. Yeah. But it happens.
Okay, let's move on to supplements. Okay, we've obviously talked about vitamin D and omega. What do you think of, I mean, you're bombarded, aren't we? We're bombarded over social media. You must take this. This is going to cure you of X, Y, and Z.
I can't bear it. I actually can't bear it. I spoke out on another podcast recently and I was like, oh, and I did speak about a supplement I'd seen a particular individual discussing because it was just so unethical. What gets me now, and I don't know if it's because I'm now a mother as well, and I've been in clinical practice for so many years, seeing the destructive impact that this has on people's pockets because of the money it costs.
Expensive, yeah.
Just as much as impacting their health. So a stat you need, which is quite impactful, but if you are taking too many supplements and you're already healthy, you are reducing your lifespan. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's actually more harmful to take a long list of supplements you do not need because it's more work for your body to break it down. We do not need all these extra vitamins and minerals. Things react in different ways within our body. You can be killing off cells rather than helping them flourish. So the key, yeah, I know. And that's a well-known statistic in the medical world as much as it is in the registered health professional world. But supplements are there to supplement a diet. So they have a really important place, like vitamin D, because we're not getting it in the diet. Yep. So we have to take it. It doesn't matter if you try and soak your mushrooms in the sun for long enough. We are not going to be getting the amount we need.
Yep.
And we're lucky that we know that information to enhance our mental health and our immune system.
Yep.
We're so fortunate we know that because people didn't 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Other supplements you might need: pregnancy multi if you're pregnant, or postpartum or conceiving, fertility.
Yep.
There's some supplements, CoQ10 and things that can help in that period of your life. And then a vegan multi if you're a vegan. Mm-hmm. And omega-3. And I would say they are the only ones people might ever need, or iron if you're iron deficient. There's some key exceptions.
And I suppose unless you've been prescribed them for some reason by a nutritionist or a doctor.
Yeah.
Gosh, that is...
Well, collagen. Let's use collagen as a classic example.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a recent study looking at what's actually in the packs of collagen. That you would know. You see them everywhere. It's not what it says it is. Does it have the bioavailability on the body? No. Is it doing anything? No, it's just putting stress on your digestive system. Is it good quality? No. And does it prevent aging? No. The only research we have is joint health potentially, but you can get that from just increasing your actual protein you're eating in your diet. Does such a thing as vegan collagen exist? No. I was asked that the other day, can I order a vegan collagen powder? What's the point? Because you're looking for structural proteins you're only going to be getting. Do people know what collagen even is?
Yeah.
So there's a whole page in the book, and it was quite unnerving reading it because I've turned a blind eye for many a year as to what is actually in my food. I know this stuff. I know E numbers are beetle secretion or, pig ears and various stuff. Collagen, obviously, the joints and the ligaments and things from animals.
Yeah.
We are all consuming blindly what we eat. I'm not saying it's not safe for consumption, but there's a choice to be made of how frequently you want to do that. And if you want to know what's in your food, do you really want to be consuming collagen powder? Do you really want to be consuming E numbers and extra things?
Because I remember when you were starting Nutrition Plus, one of the things you said to me was that you really wanted quality and you didn't want this huge quantity of products because one, you didn't think it was necessary, but ethical. Two, you need to make sure the quality. Yeah. And you found like all of these products, which are names that we'd all know.
I know.
A horrendous quality.
Especially the pregnancy multis. That's what was shocking for me. Like the best quality one was actually the one people wouldn't think was because it contained everything you needed, but it was really hard to swallow. There was huge capsules. And the dietitian I worked with in my clinic at the time, she literally wrote the guidance for the UK on fertility with the British Dietetics Association. And her and I, we went through the entire spreadsheet. We looked at the ingredients going in. We're like, there's too much in this. That is going to do nothing but put extra stress on the body to try and break that down and excrete that. That's pointless putting that amount in there. And we were looking through it and we were just like, this is insane. Where is the regulation?
And it's so crazy because you would think that they would be regulated.
Yeah, it was quite upsetting. Like, because I struggled, I started with a folic acid spray. Sadly, I couldn't keep producing that because I didn't sell enough of them. They're just not, there's not enough of a demand because people could just take the multi and the pill. But I wanted something for people that couldn't swallow the capsules, because at least then they were getting the folic acid to prevent neural tube defects like spina bifida and things. So.
And this is in pregnancy for people that don't know. No, pre-pregnancy.
So you need it 3 months prior to conception, ideally. Although I think it's something like 80% of pregnancies are not planned, like a really high number. So they hadn't been taking it before they actually got pregnant.
Yeah.
And then they can still, it's still fine if they then suddenly start taking it. But ideally, you want to build up the stores of everything before, because you don't know how your pregnancy is going to go. You're going to have hyperemesis, or you're not going to be able to.
Which you had, did you?
I had severe sickness. Thankfully, I didn't have to go into hospital, but I lost so much weight. I was very anxious, and I was measuring small. I actually had 2 7-pounder babies, so it was fine in the end. But they probably took everything from me, and I was left trying to have the supplements and eat my beige diet, because I just could not eat well in pregnancy. But
you have to be kind to yourself at that stage. Like, look, you know what you're talking about, but you're like, I can't.
And I did a page in the pregnancy book on, don't worry if all you can eat is white bread, because actually it's fortified with different nutrients, calcium and iron and things. So at least you're getting that in the bread. And if you're having cheese on it, at least that's some calcium and protein. Look, I know it's not the best diet for 9 months, but it's not the end of the world if you're still eating something. As long as it's not marshmallows and Skittles the entire way through, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. That's so, you need like to be pragmatic at that stage.
Absolutely.
Okay, diet trends. Keto, intermittent fasting. What do you feel? What are your worst? What diets would you just say to people, please just stay clear of these?
Keto, stay well clear.
Okay, give us some science.
Keto, it's the damage you don't see long term, because you increase your saturated fat and salt unwittingly through eating animal produce. No one is designed to eat that much meat, no matter what people and theories say. There's so much data to suggest that long term it blocks your arteries. You're predisposed to a heart attack. I mean, there was one story of, I think he was called like the Keto King or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he stopped. Yeah.
He had to have heart surgery in like his early 20s because he blocked his main coronary artery. I think he blocked one of the, I'm not a doctor, by the way, but he did block the key artery. And it was really risky. And of course, then you're predisposing yourself to strokes at an early age and all sorts of things. And then the minute he started eating well again, within a few years, he could reverse some of that damage that he had caused.
Okay, well, that's good for people that have gone down that route.
I mean, you can't undo the plaque that has built up in your arteries, but by eating better, you can then start to lead a life that's, you're not going to be adding more damage, if you know what I mean. So fiber does help. And of course, you're increasing your risk of colon cancer. The only listed food in class 1 carcinogen that's listed is red and processed meat, in the same category as cigarettes. Same category as alcohol. It increases your risk of cancer. Yet so many people overdo it on those 3 things: alcohol, red meat, sausages, processed meats, and cigarettes. They're the 3 things. So
as a mum of a child who loves sausages,
what can you do veggie? Have you tried the no meat ones? This is not, there's a few brands. There's a few good brands. And you might not even notice the difference if you put it on the plate.
Okay, interesting.
There's a few. Corn, there's some corn ones. I know that there's so many now. You've got to get one that tastes the way you want it to taste. But I know that, again, I've got a whole page breaking down meat alternatives in the book, or what corn actually is, and not to fear some processed items. I break all that down. But the key is really remembering it does contain more salt, the plant-based options. So go easy on salt for the rest of the day if you're including those in the diet. But is that better than having a lot of red meat? Yes. I would say so. But they're so popular, and it's ingrained in our culture, and I think we live in denial. I think everyone walking around is just like, no, I'm going to go have a hot dog and have a burger because that's what we do to celebrate. It's the American thing we brought over that we really want to embrace, but it's not good for our health. It's hard, isn't it? It's really hard because it's cultural, it's societal, it's joy. You don't want to demonize food, but at the same time, that is the one food group we have to be so careful of.
And this book sounds amazing, by the way.
I can't wait for you. Your copy should have arrived today, but we'll get you that. We'll sort it.
I mean, because we just want someone to give it how it is, to back it by science, to tell.
I'm wondering if I can find the page while we're here on the meat, so you can see. So I've even got pages on cooking with the air fryer, because that's a trend. On what that actually does to your food and how.
Please don't tell me it's bad.
No. The air fryer is fine. Do you know what? If people, I had an air fryer in 2011 at university before they were popular. Because I didn't want to use the communal kitchen. At the time. I can't find it. There's too many pages. Here it is. The book is huge. So understanding also what items to replace. So if you don't have eggs in your kitchen, you can still make things without eggs. You know, it's going to literally talk you through the science. There you go. That's the air fryer page. So I break it down with how it actually works and the benefits and the one thing to be aware of. So anyway, have a scan of that later.
I can't wait. I'm really excited. Oils.
Okay.
Oh, actually, are there any other diets?
Oh, yes. Yes. So keto, big no-no. Intermittent fasting, I'd call that more scientific research. Still in this phase of research, if you get my gist. Everyone's jumping on it like it's a miracle. It's not. It's a tool for weight loss because it's restricting your diet. That's all we have at the moment.
Also with that one, and I am not a nutritionist, obviously, I feel like it depends on the person.
It does. I could not. Some mornings, some mornings, organically, I might not end up having breakfast, but I know that I'm working from home and I might eat at 11 or 10. Not everyone has that luxury.
Yeah.
If they're commuting into work and they won't get a lunch break till 1 and they get dizzy spells, they need to be eating breakfast before they leave to get to the office. Some people thrive on intermittent fasting and they actually do very well. Other people, no way is it good for them. Women as well, perhaps not as slightly inclined for some of us hormonally. Depends where we're at in our cycle. And there's so many factors to consider. How much nutrients we can then get in the other 2 meals we're eating. Or are we going to be deficient because breakfast was our main source of fibre because we always ate things like porridge and cereals. And then we don't get as much whole grains in our lunch and dinner.
I used to have a really, really bad relationship with food, particularly in my teenage years. And what I found has really helped me has been my yoga practice and the mindfulness and actually just tuning in, like, how does this make me feel? Okay, no, it doesn't make me feel good. How does not having breakfast make me feel? It makes me feel awful.
And if you reframe it as well to every time you eat is an opportunity to nourish. My clients love that. Like, oh my gosh, what can I add in? Like, let me challenge myself. I will put a teaspoon of tahini in because I've got that in the cupboard on my porridge and that tastes so good with my pomegranates. So I'm talking like really posh foods, but you know what I mean? Whatever berries or frozen berries you've got in the freezer, whack it on. Let's look at food as nourishment. And it is hard to do. It's not easy. It's not overnight. But if we can reframe
small steps, like it is small steps. Don't go from, super processed 1 second to, because it's just not sustainable.
Your gut won't like it if you make an overnight switch. It takes time for your bacteria to adjust to new foods coming in. You will experience bloating when you change your diet because that's natural and that's normal. Bear with it for a week. It will get better. Drink more water. Bloating is so normal. Farting is normal. All these digestive processes, we need to treat our body not like something that can just do what we want it to do instantly. It takes a bit of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go back to oils.
Yes. Okay.
Oils to cook with, because you have one person saying, do this, do this. I mean, avocado oil seems to be the one everyone's talking about at the moment, but it's horrifically priced, right?
Oh, it's ridiculous. You don't need to buy avocado oil.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I've got, again, a page with all the smoke points. If you want to go into smoke points and how high you should heat it, fine. But generically speaking, please everyone just stick to extra virgin olive oil if you can. Buy it in bulk. Don't get it in
that's okay heating?
It is to a certain temperature. There's some differences with roasting, frying, but for most people to worry about, I just would say if you stick to olive oil or extra virgin, you are generically doing a good job for your heart health with the way you cook. Don't panic unless you're deep fat frying, which I hope a lot of you are not at home. But if you are, you cannot do that in olive oil. Okay. It's not a good idea at all because of the smoke point. But oils have just got such a bad rep. Like rapeseed oil is the one everyone's talking about because in America they mix it and they call it canola oil and things.
Okay.
And people are really worried about that for some reason, whereas there's actually no data that it does anything to us. In fact, cold pressed rapeseed oil from the UK, which is cheaper than extra virgin olive oil, has the same properties virtually as olive oil. And it has been shown to reduce inflammation.
Oh, wow.
So all this talk about oils, it's just TikTok trends. Like I've commented on oat Zempic recently in the press and it was weird. It's just not worth even going into. And then all these crazy names. There was another trend, the apple cider vinegar one, where people were downing it and burning their throats.
Oh, God.
They weren't diluting it.
It's so sad because people are basically picking on really vulnerable people who are desperate.
Yeah.
And
then they spend more money they don't have because they could have just eaten a balanced diet and got better results.
Yeah, exactly. Teenagers, okay? Teenagers, and they're changing bodies and, them maybe wanting to restrict their diets. How can we create a positive atmosphere around food for our teenagers?
Okay, TM's watching a squirrel go across your fence outside. How beautiful is that? Discussing teenagers, bless them. So the teenage years are really tricky. I think we have to remember now that the parent-child relationship is different. It's changed again. And open dialogue and communication and not being too overbearing is also key when it comes to keeping an eye on their diets and having these discussions about body image. if you can, one of the bits of advice I was given on my podcast was, if you're having a hard time speaking and they don't want to look you in the eye, have a conversation in the car when they're sat in the back seat.
Yeah.
They can't escape, but they are sat on the back seat. They don't have to look at you, and they could potentially reveal something. So it's finding how your teenager communicates with you best before you have discussions about that. And no judgment. It's so important to remember every word you use, the language you use. You've got to be so careful in those moments. Like, just accept whatever they have to say or whatever they want to eat at that time, and then gently bring in the pro and con of that decision so they are armed with the facts, because they're not naive. They are actually going to make their own decision. Yeah. But it is so important. And I think especially for girls, just to reiterate, the puberty, starting your periods, getting the right amount of nutrients around that time, understanding their hips are growing, they're going to get new stores of body fat being placed in different areas, their breasts are growing. That is hard for most girls, teenagers, to go through that transition. And the best thing you can do is just try and nourish whenever you cook your meals, but accept the fact that they're going to be rebellious in their own way. Try and get to that open dialogue point. And if it can't be you, it's going to have to be someone else, someone you trust, someone they can talk to, because at least if you know they've got someone they can talk to. I mean, that's off the topic of diet a little bit, and I'll probably swallow my words when I get there, but having 2 boys as well, I almost feel like it shouldn't be this way, but gender stereotypes, I do think in the teenage years, boys have their own challenges. But I think girls and body image in particular, that's such a crucial time.
Girls
Bone
can
development.
be so mean as well, picking on how each other looks.
And dieting is just so toxic. If you notice any sudden behavior changes around the dinner table, that's a key sign to look out for. If you notice frequent visits to a bathroom, or if you're noticing that their moods are worse than usual with severe mood swings, and you're noticing they're not eating their meals, that's when red flags should start cropping up. Keep a tab on it. If it persists for more than 2 to 3 weeks, you probably do need to intervene.
Oh,
I know.
God,
well, hopefully it'll be a smooth journey. But if anyone's listening, the Retri Clinic, we can give you free resources that might be helpful just as much if you don't want to pay for a one-to-one, but we can help it. That's my eating disorder area team. They are fantastic. We have psychologists and dietitians that work in that day in, day out. I don't know how they do it.
I think I've heard one of your people talk about it before, and they were incredible. So
they know their stuff, and they deal with all sorts of. You'd be amazed how young as well disordered eating can start.
Oh God,
it's not just teenage years, so it's
horrendous. Going back to kind of supplements a bit.
Yes.
Green powders.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Actually, we should have mentioned that. So, is an ultra processed food?
Yeah,
of course. We have something called the food matrix. We are designed to eat food to reap the benefits from it in its natural state to a degree. Obviously, you can cook things and everything, but it has over 140 to 50,000 different phytochemicals and properties that work. We don't understand it yet in science. We don't understand what's actually in an apple. We know there's pectin and different fibers, but there's so much more that we haven't understood or we don't know, and how it works in the body to give us the benefits of eating that fruit or vegetable. And the problem is when you take an extract of an apple or a bit of lettuce or cabbage or whatever the greens they want to put in, spirulina, or whatever they want to chuck in there, and you're grinding it down, you're drying it up, you're freeze drying it, you're putting it in as a powder, and you're saying it's a source of this vitamin or this vitamin, it doesn't actually work like that inside the body. And then how much is going into a green powder? Tons. Too much.
Okay.
Too much for your body to deal with in one packet. What was even more worrying, because I was asked to do a feature for a magazine analysing every green powder. Ethically,
what magazine was it?
It was Red Magazine.
Okay. And has it come out?
Well, I actually pulled out of it halfway through because I didn't feel I was comfortable with saying there was one superior option to another.
Oh, because that's what they wanted.
Well, it kind of changed halfway through writing the feature, and it started off as doing analysis of the more holistic black and white, and then they wanted me to choose things. I was like, I can't do this because I actually don't want to be recommending green powders to people. Some of them cost £100 a month. £100. And for most people, they're thinking, this is good for me to spend this, whereas they should have just spent that money on some extra grains and pulses and beans and stuff that week, and that would have had 10 times more impact.
It's hard though, because I've tried green powders, and as a mom, like when you're lacking time and you're working and you've got all this stuff going on that you're like, oh God, I don't know if I'm eating well enough. Okay, well, this will help.
Yeah.
And so I think the everyone's just trying to do their best.
Yeah, they are. That's just it. I think
actually, but it sounds like this might be able to help us more
to
go.
We'll break it down. I'm not saying that in that situation, every now and again, if you can afford it, that's fine. But the green powders are only problematic because a lot of them market themselves as they are as good as the diet.
Yeah.
You know, they're not supplementing like a supplement every now and again to chuck it in with your drink. And if it becomes a daily thing and people think that they're getting everything in that packet, they're not.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't list the form the supplement comes in. Some just said vitamin A on the back. I was like, well, is that beta carotene? Is that a different form? How do I know that's bioavailable? What form of B12 have you added here? Or, you know, none of it was listed. I couldn't find it on the website. I couldn't find it on the back of the packet.
But does it also go back to what you said before about us overloading our bodies and not
it applies.
needing all of those things?
If you do that daily, it's not a good idea probably for most people.
Wow.
I know. Every now and again, fine. Like I probably, if I went to a smoothie bar and I wanted to treat myself, I probably would add an extra shot of stuff in because I don't do it every day.
Yeah.
But there's no benefit to having that every day. I'd much rather you eat like 2 sticks of broccoli and you'll get way more benefit from eating 2 sticks of broccoli than your whole green powder.
And I mean, how much cheaper is that going to be?
Exactly. Miles. Like you can't even compare it.
Oh gosh.
But it's okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to scaremonger, but I'm just saying you don't need to waste your money.
Okay. I'm nearly done with my questions, I promise. Sustainable eating though, I mean, it's at the forefront. Everyone's talking about it. Yeah. How can we be more sustainable without feeling completely overwhelmed and if we're on a shoestring?
It's so important. And the good news is plant-based diets. So the biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions is our diets. Is the food system. A lot of it links back to agriculture. Yeah. And the gas is given off into the environment. And actually we produce, this is a crazy stat. So out of the mammals living on the planet, there's more agriculture than people for food. Then we have less than 4% wildlife left in the world. Less than 4%. So the food chain and the food systems are unbalanced. They're unequal at the moment. We don't need that much. We're basically farming animals for that purpose, but they're taking up so much land and that causes water pollution. It causes more trees and forest and plants to be feeding these animals. Environmentally speaking, it's catastrophically bad. So we just need to reduce that a little bit. You can still have ethical farming to a degree of whatever your standard of ethical code that is. And we need to stop eating cheaper meats and unprocessed things. Farms that do eggs even and hens, you know, look at the quality. I've got a page in the book on what actually counts as free range and what counts as the different, you'd be shocked if you saw the size. So sustainability wise, farming's a big problem. What we can do is reduce the meat. You can still eat it, but just reduce the amount. I think 90 grams in the Lancet paper was the recommended amount of red meat, which if you look at an average steak or something, is a lot more. It's like double.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Even more than that in some cases.
So
and
gives
that's
you the
90 grams in a
week, which still gives you the amount of iron and everything you'd need.
Right.
And a plant-based diet will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It's good for the planet. It's one of the most researched things we can all take control of. I think like 30% we could reduce greenhouse gas emissions by if we just reduce the amount of animal produce we eat.
Oh, that's incredible, isn't it? Do you have recipes in here?
So no, I didn't put recipes in here for a deliberate reason that there weren't enough pages to fit all the information that I wanted. So, but every recipe I do in the nutrition page is pretty much plant-based anyway. So there's tons there to go to. And this page, I actually wanted a chapter on cooking skills and understanding what happens in a microwave or an oven or the air fryer, how to get maximum nutrition out of the food that you're cooking as well, understanding the oils. And I've got a whole section on that to help people navigate their way through. But environmental impact, one of the biggest contributors is our diets and food waste. Oh my goodness, there's so much food waste. It's just, it doesn't bear, it is sickening. But it's individual to a degree, but it's also systemic, and our government has to meet its targets. By 2025, it was meant to have reduced, emissions. Have we done that? I don't know. Don't think so.
I suspect so, no.
Yeah, no, it's not my full area there, but there's some amazing people out there doing incredible things with climate change that, I think UCL, it's called Mark, I should know his surname. I had him on podcast, but he's amazing. I can link all this stuff for you, and we'll
please
find
do,
him and have a look, because he talks about it. And there's a lot of deniers out there with climate change, and that's a problem too.
Yeah, that is a problem too. Okay, so the last topic I want to talk about is sugar.
Yes.
And so I think it was probably in my teenage years, or maybe early 20s, I read a book about sugar, and it freaked me out about.
I know which book it is. I'm sure I know.
It basically it's stopping you eating from even eating fruit, and it's taken me a long time for my relationship to be okay with fruit again.
Did it tell you to have a spoon of coconut oil when you got hungry? Was it that one?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember that. I didn't do that.
That was toxic. Yeah.
So what should we do? Because obviously sugar is an issue. We are eating too much sugar. Is fruit a problem? Because fruit has so many benefits.
Fruit's not the problem. It's your packets. Anything in a packet's a problem. Have it less often and enjoy it when you do. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
Fruit doesn't, fruit comes off trees and we grow it and it's beautiful, or, it could come in the ground. The fruit is just natural, and we're meant to eat it to get the vitamins and minerals. The fiber slows the release. Fructose is metabolized in our liver. And the problem we've got with refined sugars, like your lollipops and things, 50% glucose and 50% fructose make up sucrose, which is the sugar molecule. And for the body to navigate a huge influx of that chronically, so every day, it's a lot around the liver. You can get fatty liver disease, a lot of weight gain, because there's a lot of energy that's harder to break down.
Right.
Because it's not just fructose, it's what's happening to this other glucose, more energy. We get glucose from carbs as well, from bread, from our vegetables. We don't need so much of it in abundance, and it's hidden in everything. There's so much of it. You don't need to add extra sugar to your food, because it's in everything. You'd be so surprised. And it's not that sugar's bad, it's just the amount we eat.
It's just everything comes back to everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation. I have chocolate every day, and I find that helps my healthy relationship with food. I have chocolate almonds now. They're my favorite thing in the world. In fact, Ella does the most amazing almonds without emulsifiers and preservatives and the chocolate, and I have those daily, and I adore them. And I know I'm getting my nut portion in, which is really good. We should all be eating more nuts and seeds, but they're expensive. This is just it.
Yeah.
I mean, if the government were to subsidize anything, I wish they'd subsidize nuts and seeds for people, rather than buy one, get one free on a Mars bar. It's infuriating. This is the problem. Mars bars, I think everybody knows that's not great for our health, because it's just a load of processed food, ultra processed food thrown in with no nutritional benefit.
Yeah.
But fruit has nutritional benefit. And I know there's somebody online, the same one that released this awful pill that I spoke about on this other podcast, who's demonizing fruit and everything. And it's just not healthy. Most people don't get their 5 a day. Don't tell people not to eat fruit.
Yeah. I mean, if my son didn't eat fruit, I'd
That's what I mean.
At least,
he's getting vitamin C and vitamin A, and he's getting a lot of fiber. And in that fiber, so it's not just about insoluble and soluble anymore. There are loads of different types of fibers we don't know the names of yet.
Oh, wow.
And there are different strains, and they feed our gut bugs. Our gut bugs love different types of fruits and vegetables and things. So,
and they love it in fruit form, right? Because juices, not as good.
I mean,
and what about smoothies?
Juices count as one of your 5 a day if it's 150 ml, which is a tiny portion. Most bottles are 330 plus.
Yeah.
So you are just you're having a huge sugar hit if you're just having fruit juice, but it gives you vitamin C.
Yeah.
Weigh it up. I mean, if you don't eat any fruit or veg, at least you'll get a bit if you drink some fruit juice. But smoothies contain a tiny bit more fiber, and you can add more into them because you're in control of what you add into your smoothie, which is great. Bought shop smoothies are not great.
Okay, interesting.
They're just pure fruit most of the time, because it's not palatable enough, and they put a high percentage of veg in. So you might as well just make it at home if you can.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same as having fruit juice, having a smoothie at the moment for most brands out there. Yeah. But they're not bad. They taste lovely. On holiday, I love to have like a fresh smoothie with ice crushed in, and I love it. My kids, I water everything down. Zacky's now at the age where at parties they're giving I don't let him have the fruit juice and things like that, but if they have fruit juice and things, I just water it down a little bit, and he still can enjoy everything.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so can you leave us with 3 tips? 3 tips to help you nourish your body.
Oh, I love that. Let's re-nourish again. So tip 1 would be just drink more water. I know it's basic, guys, but no one is. No one's drinking enough water, and you will notice it. You'll notice your mouth getting dry, and you'll notice how more frequently you need it and how much better water affects your mood. It doesn't just affect every cell in your body, it's how you feel, which is amazing. So that's tip 1. It's so basic. Tip 2, if you eat meat, please reduce it, would be my number one tip.
Yeah.
Let's start getting some swaps in that are going to save your wallet just as much as your waistline, or just as much as your heart health, or everything. Just try and make simple swaps. Try a veggie sausage. Check them all out. Every week, pick a different brand. See what you can try and just make that little swap, or try and add some more beans and pulses in. Tip 3, try a new fruit or veg each week.
Ooh.
Yeah, so if you normally get pink lady apples, try a different variety of apple. Yeah. If you normally get kiwis, try golden kiwi, or switch that up to trying a lychee or something else that's on the shop shelves you would not normally get, because all of that is good for our gut health.
You've been absolutely amazing. Can you tell us where we can find you?
Yes.
And when the book's out?
Okay, so yeah, this is sneak preview copy. So 27th of June, the book is out. So I think it's like 2 weeks now, which is crazy. And everywhere online, it's just Retrition, Rhiannon Lambert. Just Google it, and I even have a TikTok now. You've got Instagram, you've got TikTok. It's all there. It's all there online. So yeah. Oh, and then food for thought. If they want to listen to podcasts with the nutritional scientists, that's my jam, and I get to interview people far more intelligent than I am, and I get to learn everything they have.
It's a really, really fantastic podcast, and you've got 2 other books, which is Renourish and
this is number 5 now.
Oh God! Oh no, because you've got the
because I've got the pregnancy book, and I wrote one with Ronnie O'Sullivan, the snooker player, called Top of Your Mind, top of your game. So he's 8 times world champion, and we worked together. He was my client. And yeah, if you're into sports, that's more of a performance-based book.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting.
That's cool. That was cool.
5th book. Well done. You are incredible.
You.
I loved listening to your story. I could listen to you for hours.
This is why I have no social life, though, isn't it? So we finally made it together, because I have no life.
It's so hard, though. You're doing an amazing job as a mum, and you're absolutely nailing it. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll get you back soon, I hope.
Thanks for having me.